guys go. I'll find out how many tickets were written. Yes, but I think he went out injured for about a week or so. But Lieutenant General was on. He assigned it. I stepped in. But I can go with John if you need to. I get the number.
I wasn't here last week. I can't move to approve.
Understood. Good evening, welcome to November 7th of the Lowell License Commission. Secretary, when was the meeting posted?
Yes.
Number 1 in the agenda, please.
Acceptance of meeting minutes for October the 24th, 2019.
Motion made by Commissioner McCarthy, seconded by Commissioner Donahue. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Next.
We had a hearing, it's been continued from October 24th on the allegation of misconduct as charged by Raymond Kelly Richardson, Superintendent of Police, dated September 19th, 2019, against the licensee LD Holdings LLC, doing business as Revolution, 74 Merrimack Street. Jeffrey Torres is manager of record, the all-alcoholic beverage restaurant licensee. The allegation of misconduct occurred July 27, 2019. The licensee had failed to notify the Lowell Police of an altercation reported by a patron to the Lowell Police on July 29, 2019.
Anybody here to represent? State your name for the record, sir.
Good afternoon, Travis Jacobs for the licensee.
Attorney Jacobs is the manager of record in attendance tonight?
The manager of record is out of the country.
Out of the country. Okay.
On vacation.
Thank you very much. Captain Hodgkin, can you read the complaint, please?
Yes, sir. Commissioners, the Lowell Police Department respectfully requests that enforcement action be taken against the licensee, Club Revolution, for violations that took place on July 27, 2019, specifically 1.20 of the rules and regulations of the License Commission for illegal activities. On Monday, July 29, 2019, a victim came into the Lowell Police Department to report a past assault. According to the victim, this incident occurred on July 27, 2019. While she was dancing, she stated she was hit over the head with a glass bottle at Bar 74. We later come to find out that this incident actually occurred in Club Revolution upstairs. The victim sustained injuries to her head and foot. The victim sought medical treatment at the hospital that required 10 stitches on her foot from the broken glass. It was later brought to Lieutenant Peasley's attention that this incident occurred at Club Revolution, located on the 3rd floor on Merrimack Street. Bar 74 and Revolution are located in the same building at 7476 Merrimack Street. According to the victim, immediately after being assaulted, two men wearing black shirts with Bar 74 on the front of the shirt and security in the back picked up the victim, carried her to the door. At no time, according to the victim, did the employees offer medical attention to her or indicate the police would be notified. The victim did provide a video and photographs of her injury of this incident. The victim identified the suspect as a person she knows. That person was subsequently charged with assault and carry dangerous weapon to a glass bottle. She was summoned into Lowell court for those charges, and those charges are still pending at this time.
Captain, just for clarification, statement, the second page, at no time did employees of Bar 74. Is that accurate, or at no time did employees of Revolution?
Well, we found, and Lieutenant Pease can testify to it, is that during his investigation, he found that Bar 74 and Club Revolution use the same security staff for patrons entering the establishment. They share a common...
For both, right?
Yes, they share a common entrance-way to the establishment.
That's correct, okay, I understand. Thank you very much.
A check of the Lowell Police computer automated dispatch, or CAD, and phone records confirmed Revolution did not notify the Lowell Police Department of this incident by telephone or otherwise that this took place on the licensed premises. So based on these facts, we believe that we have a viable claim that the failure to notify the Lowell Police Department of illegal activity pursuant to Rule 1.20 of the Lowell License Authority regulations, specifically to assault and battery dangerous weapon to a patron of their establishment. And I have Lieutenant Peasley here to testify.
Lieutenant Peasley, could you come to the podium, please? State your name for the record, sir.
Sure. Lieutenant Dave Peasley.
Lieutenant Peasley, anything else to offer beside Captain Hodgkins' depiction of what happened that night?
So I can describe a little bit about why there's some sort of confusion too between the two establishments, if you let me.
Sure, go ahead.
There's a door, front door that you would get into for Bar 74 that faces on Merrimack Street, but there's also a door to the left of that with some stairs that goes up to the Bar Revolution. But immediately upon entering that door, there's a side door that also goes back to Bar 74 on the first floor. So what we found over the course of the last couple of weeks, I've visited a couple, maybe 3 or 4 times in the last month, spoke with the new manager there, Scott Foreman, and what we found is that they have contract doormen who sometimes just stay at the door to Club Revolution, but also they also check the IDs for the Bar 74. So there is a little bit of continuity between the two places, even though that they might have 2 different licenses. So it would add to the confusion as to why the initial reporting officer put Bar 74 as opposed to Club Revolution.
Understood.
And the address is also, I think, Bar 74's address in our CAD is 76 Merrimack, and Club Revolution address is 74. So you can see that the mistake there. Additionally, on the security, the security of that night of the incident, the video that was provided to us from the victim, you can clearly see that the security that were breaking up the fight in Club Revolution were wearing black shirts that said Bar 74 on them. So you can see what the confusion would be.
Can you tell me what transpired once you came to the scene?
So I actually wasn't at the scene. What my job is, as the lieutenant in the downtown sector, what I do is I follow up on different complaints and different incidences that happen in the downtown area. One of the things we focus on is different compliance checks with all the area bars. So when that report was taken on Monday the 29th, I got a hold of the report and did some follow-up and spoke with the victim myself on, I think it was July 31st. Just to make sure that, in the report, she says that the incident happened up in the bar, but when I checked the CAD system, I noticed there were no calls to that bar during that time period. So when I spoke with her, she provided me photos of her injury. She provided me a video that one of her friends took on a cell phone of the incident, and she made it perfectly clear that after the incident, that she was carried downstairs, basically put on the sidewalk and offered no medical treatment. And police were not called.
You viewed the video, Lieutenant?
I have it, yes, I actually have it, yeah. I
You
think
viewed
we
it yourself,
submitted
right?
it as evidence,
Yep.
yeah. Yeah. And the photos of her injuries as well.
All right, thank you very much, Lieutenant. I apologize. Fellow commissioners, any questions for Lieutenant Peasley? Commissioner Howe?
Yes, ma'am.
What did the video depict?
So in the video itself, you can see on the dance floor, there was a fight starting, and the victim pointed herself out in the video. So you could actually see the security lifting her up. They actually fall to the floor at one point. And then it's a very quick video. It's only maybe 10 to 15 seconds. And then the last image is of them falling and then picking her back up, and it looks like they're walking towards the door.
And the victim told you that two security guards carried her down the stairs?
She said a security guard, I don't know if it was one or two, but in the video, you can see one kind of bear hug her, and then they both fall down to the ground, and then he kind of lifts her back up again. So I'm assuming that would be the same person that carried her down.
And did the victim also tell you that a woman who she thought was the manager told her to leave?
She did, yeah. But going into the further, she said that when she was put on the street, she was obviously bleeding and hurt, and the woman told her that, to basically leave the area, get lost.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? No? Thank you, Lieutenant. Appreciate your time. Attorney Jacobs, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. I just want to thank the board for continuing this hearing to tonight. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So I just want to make sure I point out one thing early on, which is even though the lieutenant was saying the word revolution when he was reading off the report, it doesn't say revolution anywhere in the report. It actually just says bar 74. So just want to make sure that's clear. Also, there's nothing that would have prevented the Lowell Police Department from updating its report based on the detective's findings if he believed that that the incident occurred at Revolution and not bar 74, based on his later interviews and trips to the scene. There's nothing that prevented him from updating his report to reflect his findings and put in the report that he believed this incident occurred at Revolution.
Just so we're clear, Attorney Jacobs, if I'm not mistaken, the reason that we had rescheduled for 2 weeks ago was that, in fact, bar 74 was mentioned, when I did take that into consideration when I asked for a motion to reschedule. So I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. We are talking about Revolution tonight, and I think you are as well.
So I understand what you're saying, but the burden of proof for tonight is that Revolution was the location of the incident.
Correct.
So what I'm pointing out on tonight is that the report doesn't identify Revolution.
And you clearly pointed out to me that the video that you showed from 4 weeks ago was clearly Revolution.
I didn't say that. What I asked was whether you recognized the video to be bar 74.
Right, and that's why we rescheduled it, because it was not bar 74. In fact,
Correct.
It was Revolution.
But I never said that it was Revolution. That never came out of my mouth.
Can I ask a question?
Do you have the narrative from the police department, from Lieutenant Peasley, Attorney Jacobs?
I do.
It has come to this officer's attention that in the narrative, Officer Matt Casella's original report regarding a past assault at 74 Merrimack Street, he incorrectly identified the place of the assault as occurring in bar 74. The incident, in fact, happened on the second floor of 74 Merrimack Street, a nightclub known as Revolution. Bar 74 and Revolution are in the same building and share the same numerical address of 74 Merrimack Street. Do you have that copy, sir? Secretary Nguyen, was Attorney
What page
Jacobs
is
given
that
this?
He can have my copy.
Well, I want to make sure he received it. Secretary Nguyen, did Attorney Jacobs get a copy of this?
He was emailed that, and the licensee was sent a letter in hard,
Thank
by
you very
mail,
much.
regular mail. But emails were sent to,
I'll give you a minute, Attorney.
What's the date of the, oh, here it is. Okay, I gotcha.
Thank you.
So this report is dated September 17th, 2019. Is that right? Is that the one you're looking at?
Yes.
just to
So
add
that-
to
Col-
If I may, just
Llewellyn.
one thing with regard to that particular item.
Yes?
I printed correction, third floor, RW. I just wanted that to be known.
Attorney Jacobs, do you have that?
Yeah, so I see that.
Okay. Captain Hodgen, do you have something to say?
Yes, if I could just ask David, Lieutenant Peasy a question pertaining to this?
Lieutenant, if you don't mind coming back up to the lectern?
Lieutenant, upon finding out that the mistake was in bar 74 from the initial report, what, if anything, you did to do to verify that this occurred in Club Revolution upstairs?
So we actually went and visited the place, and it just, I guess, it's a matter of semantics, because there is a second floor, but it's not accessible, so
Right.
when I said second floor, it means it's the second floor of a bar, right, which is the club, so I guess we're playing, semantics here, but we did go up and visit Club Revolution. You can clearly see the stage and where she was, and it's on, I guess it would be the third floor of the building, but it's really the second floor of the establishment, because the second floor is not accessible to.
The video corroborates that?
Excuse me?
The video corroborates that?
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Just follow up, was there any employee from Revolution with you when you went upstairs?
Yes, Scott Foreman, I believe he's the new manager. He identified himself as the new manager of record to me.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Lieutenant. Attorney Jacobs, go right ahead. I think we're all in agreement then, at this point, that we are talking about Revolution.
Well, we're in agreement that the report updated, over a month after the incident says that it actually happened on the second floor of 74 Merrimack Street. And I understand Mr. Nguyen included a correction that refers to the third floor. But it doesn't negate the fact that the person who's the apparent victim said that it was bar 74.
Are you, did you by chance, Counselor, did you get to see the video?
I did see the video, yes.
What were your thoughts on where it?
Since I've never been in either one of these establishments, I wouldn't be able to tell you one way or another.
Okay. All right. As far, go right ahead, good. I'll let you finish.
That was just my first point. My other point was just to remind the board that this is not a violation for failure to respond quickly, for failure to, maintain the premises. This is a failure to report the incident. The report itself actually notes that this particular patron said that the security personnel were immediately on site of the incident. There's no way to prevent incidents at bars from occurring. People are going to do whatever they're going to do. The point of having security is to prevent those incidents from getting out of hand, and that's exactly what happened here. I don't know what else you would want a bar owner to do but have security personnel, as this person states in the report, immediately respond and remove the people who are in the altercation from the premises. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. The other thing I want to make sure is clear in the report is the initial report, the one that was taken the day the alleged victim appeared at the police station, does not identify any head laceration. It's the second report that does that, and there's actually another photo which was not provided, but was provided to the police. Didn't make it into the report that was sent to me. But there's another photo that was of this woman's head, and it's just a bruise. It may just be even a scratch. I don't even know if you'd qualify as a bruise. There's no head laceration. There's no bleeding from the head. And if you read the initial report, which was dated July 29th, it says, Kiana only suffered bruising on the top of her head. So I don't know how we got to a situation where this person was hit in the head with a bottle and suffered a head laceration, but the police report seemed to exaggerate that in the subsequent updated report dated August 1st. And I wanted the board to be aware of that. Real quick, do I have an opportunity to cross-examine any of the witnesses here tonight?
Yeah, you can ask the questions. If I feel that they don't need a response, I'll stop the questioning.
So I can't directly cross-examine anyone?
That's correct.
Okay. So anyway, I just want to, point that out. This was not an incident where this woman had a head laceration from getting hit in the head with a bottle. It sounds like she cut her foot, and whether or not that happened at the bar or outside of the bar, I don't know if anybody even knows.
Do you mind if I interrupt you for 1 second, Attorney?
Sure.
Commissioners, has everybody viewed the video?
Yes.
Commissioner Donahue? Commissioner Krieger? You have not, okay.
So I viewed a video. It shows a bouncer grabbing that, I believe, Kiana,
Yeah,
and trying to remove her from the incident, and then the bouncer slips.
I'm gonna let you continue, Attorney, and I apologize for interrupting you. I do agree with you. Fights happen, occurrences happen, it happens all the time. You're dealing with alcohol, I understand that. But I think we're just kind of going off the point here a little bit, where, if this was just that and the situation happened, it happened. I get it. I've owned a bar, it's happened. My concern here is that, once again, this establishment, and this is confirmed by the police department, that a phone call was not made.
Well, actually,
Lowell Police Department.
that's great. I'd like to get to that next. So,
It's all yours.
in the police report, the police identify as their basis for not receiving any report is that they checked the call logs for that evening and found no phone number from Bar 74 in the call logs or the messages. So what I think is interesting are two things. One, when they wrote this report, they thought it was Bar 74. So they're looking for Bar 74's number. There's no indication that they looked for Revolution's number. That's number one. Number two, the report doesn't necessarily need to come from the phone number of the establishment. It could come from someone's cell phone, the manager's phone, what have you. Based on this report, I don't think there's sufficient evidence for the board to find that no report was made, because the only evidence, if you read...
Do you know of any call made by any of your clients by either Bar 74 or Revolution during that night, or a patron?
Well, but the burden...
And I guess I'll ask that same question to Captain Hodgson and with the Lieutenant Peasley as well.
Well,
So
and
I'll let you
sure.
answer.
The burden of proof is on the city. The city's burden is to prove...
That's why I'm going to ask them, but I just
Right.
didn't know if you had any knowledge of it, that maybe any of your clients' employees had made a call from either Bar 74 or Revolution.
I have no knowledge either way.
All right, Lieutenant Peasley, can you just step up to the lectern, answer that question for me?
So before we came, we did run what we call a CAD search, and it's not based on phone numbers, it's based on dispatch calls to a certain location.
Yeah.
And those dispatch calls would be in response to any phone call, whether it was a mobile phone from a manager or whether it was from a landline from Bar 74. So in the whole month of July of 2019, there were only 5 calls to either the Revolution or Bar 74, none of them on the date of the incident, none of them pertain to any type of assault. The only calls we had were for a motor vehicle injury, a compliance check on the 20th that I conducted. We had some directed patrols there, parking tickets, and then the assault on the 29th, which would be that Monday when the initial report was taken. So those aren't relied on phone calls. Those are this CAD report that I have is from dispatched officers to a location based upon anybody's phone or anybody's call. So
I
it's not
appreciate
based on-
that, thank you. Captain Hodgson, would you like to add anything to that?
Yes, I can add to that. When this was brought to my attention, as far as drafting a potential violation, as Lieutenant Peasley stated, I also checked the CAD, and what he stated is correct. And I also can check the phone calls for for the time frame of that night, and I could not locate any recorded phone calls from our dispatch center for anybody calling for assistance for past assault at Bar 74, or I should say Revolution, and/or Revolution. The CAD did indicate that the victim came into the police station herself personally. She did not call and spoke to the desk officer, and that was the first time it was brought to our attention.
And that was on Monday.
Right, and no officers were dispatched that night. The closest thing that night, the Lowell Police went to a call was right at Merrimack and Central for a fight that resulted in the arrest of a juvenile. That was at about 10 minutes 11. There were no other calls in that immediate area of the establishment.
Got it. Attorney Jacobs, would you like to?
Yeah, would you mind asking if that call check included the business line, the non-emergency line?
Captain Hodgkins, you can answer that.
Yes, it does. The business line's 3200. Yes, all incoming calls to the police department are recorded to the dispatch center.
Attorney Jacobs?
Okay.
Okay. Commissioners, questions to Captain Hodgkin, Lieutenant Peasley, or Attorney Jacobs? Commissioner Krieger?
Attorney Jacobs, was there an email sent explaining this? Or a letter do we know of?
No, so the board, and I'm sure Mr. Wynn can confirm this, and Attorney Gordon, when there have been incidents, either I or Lauren DeSalvo have sent an email to Attorney Gordon or to Mr. Wynn. I don't think anyone thought this was an incident. So, as far as the people at the bar knew, that there was no cut on her foot. Nobody saw any cut on this person's foot. And, you know, it was someone who was removed, asked to leave, and that was that, so.
Has LD Holdings, in light of this incident, decided to differentiate between Bar 74 and Revolution Security so as to avoid these kinds of confusions?
I don't even know if Bar 74 was open on this particular night.
Lieutenant Peasley, was Bar 74 open that night?
I can't speak for that particular night.
Yeah.
But as recently as 2 weeks ago, they were still sharing security staff.
It seemed to me, though, when you stated that you thought that the security was, yeah, so that was a good security measure that they had at that door, so somebody couldn't just pop right in who was underage.
That's correct, yes.
All right, so they kind of straightened that out a little bit. Okay, all right, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. Commissioner McCarthy.
Attorney Jacobs, when did you view the tape?
Here,
It was the first time you saw the tape?
correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner Howe.
I understand the city has the burden of proof, and I've listened tonight, and I've heard that a female at Revolution hit another female over the head with a bottle. The bottle breaks. Two females began actively fighting. One steps on broken glass. She's bleeding all over the place. She's carried out by one or two security guards with Bar 74 T-shirt on. She's told by the manager to leave. I've also heard that they didn't offer her medical attention. And I guess the question I have is, where is any counter evidence from Revolution? Where's the manager of record? Where's an employee who was there that night to dispute this? Is there any reason why someone's not here to tell us another side of the story?
Like I said, the manager of record is out of the country, so can't have him here. And as far as medical attention, I don't know why they would offer medical attention to somebody who didn't appear to need it. Like I said, the police report says initially it's just bruises. And then, which is commonly our issue here, is that the next report, 3 days later, it turns into a cut on her head.
Well, I saw a picture of her foot. Did you see that picture?
Yeah, I have the picture of her
And she needed
foot.
10 stitches, and she told the police, and it's in the report, that there was blood all over the place. So the fact that no one called the police is an egregious violation.
I don't think there was blood all over the place at the establishment. If there was blood all over the place at the establishment, wouldn't you see it in the video? But you don't. You can
Well,
clearly see her.
I saw the video.
You can clearly see her. I don't see a cut on her foot at that point.
Well, you can't, I'm not here to answer your questions, all right?
I'm not asking a question, I'm making a statement. You cannot
Right,
see.
Right, but the fact that you show up, the manager of records out of the country, and we have the burden of proof, yeah, I think the police have met that burden.
Of course you do. The police met the burden the
Of
last
course I
time
do,
I
I
was here.
understand English,
Yeah,
yeah.
of course you think they met the burden. Did I have any belief that you wouldn't?
Well, maybe if you brought someone in to give me another side of the story, I would have a little
We
different opinion.
brought in the manager of record previously to testify about 2 supposed prostitutes coming into a bar after hours and seeing
Let's
12
stay on subject.
patrons?
Let's stay on subject. Let's stay on
No
subject.
evidence.
You're not a fact witness. So you
Exactly
can-
my point.
Yeah, so,
But we had fact witnesses
So we-
for that incident, 0 evidence, and there was a 3-day suspension, 2 held in abeyance. So,
and getting back to the issue of the police report, the distinguishing between Bar 74 and Revolution, we have testimony that when you enter the place, there's someone there wearing a Bar 74. You can either go this way or up the stairs. The bars are intermingled, so that, let me
that wasn't
finish.
what
So
the testimony
So
was.
that mistake was understandable, and it's been corrected. It's been corrected. The other thing, you asked the chairman if you could cross-examine, and he said you could through him. You cannot cross-examine directly, but you can cross-examine indirectly. I just wanted to make that point.
are you an attorney, Ms. Howe?
You know I am.
You cannot properly cross-examine someone through a third party. It's impossible.
This is not a
The-
court.
are-
This is not a court.
But you still have a right to due process here. And preventing a party from cross-examining
I know that's where
a
you're going. That's
witness-
why I mentioned
Yeah,
that. So
of course,
ask the
it's a
question-
violation of due process.
Ask the question through the
It's
chair.
impossible.
We have been
You are-
told by legal counsel that that is how the questioning has been done.
Correct.
So we're following
And
legal
that's going to
counsel.
be an issue, I'm sure, that gets resolved on appeal, and I'm happy to make new
That's
law on
why
this
I'm
point.
saying, go ahead and ask
is-
your questions, because I know what you're doing.
Commissioner Howe, it is impossible, and you know this as an attorney, for me to properly cross-examine someone through a third party. You cannot get the flow or the art of cross-examination through a third person. And then, my questions are limited.
Just to be on the record, Councilor Gordon, I want you to add something to this. Go ahead. And let me know what the city of Lowell is thinking on this matter.
Well, our position that has been expressed is this is a local license commission. This is not the ABCC.
It's not
This
a
is not a
courtroom.
court of law. That council, if he appeals whatever decision comes forth tonight, has the right to go before the ABCC at a hearing de novo with the ability to cross-examine whomever he wants to at that point in time. He's not prohibited from doing that. But given the structure of this limited commission's role, then the way we're approaching it is giving him due process. He has a hearing and the opportunity to be heard and to present whatever evidence he so chooses. He's not presenting any evidence tonight, apparently, but he has that right, and so due process has been met and is being met.
And it is under your advisement that, in fact, the questions that Attorney Jacobs would have to come through the chair.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
The problem
Attorney-
is, and if I can just...
Go
if
ahead,
don't
I'll
mind.
let you finish.
There have been recent cases on this very point involving similar scenarios where you had students in colleges and universities who were denied the right to cross-examination under Title IX or Title VII, and they were having hearings on sexual harassment, sexual assault cases, and the alleged perpetrators were barred from cross-examining. A lot of those cases have gone up, and the courts have ruled you cannot have due process without cross-examination. It is at the heart of due process. So, I understand what the advice is, and we've raised this issue on our other appeal, and I guess we'll deal with it then and
Deal with it again. I
again,
guess. All right.
such is the circle of life.
So, I guess to get on my point again, and it seems to have been corroborated through Lieutenant Peasley and Captain Hodgin that there was no phone call made to the Lowell Police Department. Which, to me, like I said, I'm in total agreement with you. Fights happen. it happens, you know, you're dealing with alcohol and people have too much, young kids, and this is what happens.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna put the blame on management for somebody taking a bottle and hitting somebody over the head. I understand that. But I also understand that management has their responsibility, and their responsibility at that point was to call the Lowell Police Department. That was not done. I'll let my other commissioners speak. Commissioner Donahue?
I'd like to preface my remarks, and with all due respect to the city solicitor's office, I think some limited cross-examination should be allowed in these hearings. Be that as it may, we're going on the advice of counsel. But I do feel that in the incident being discussed, the location has been clarified, and it's obvious that an incident did occur. Regardless of how serious or minor the injury was, I think that's for another forum to decide. But I believe that there was an incident which necessitated our notification to the License Commission of the Police Department to take place. Because I find no evidence from what we've heard that there was either a telephone call or an email.
Commissioner McCarthy?
I agree with Commissioner Donahue. There was no notification here. It's the establishment's responsibility to notify the license board, and it wasn't done. There was an incident here, we all agree to that, so I agree with that. Commissioner.
Thank you. Commissioner Howe, any final words? No.
If I could just...
Attorney Jacobs, would you like any final words?
Yeah, one final word. I just want to point out in the report that it does say that Katia, the alleged victim, states that they were dancing when out of nowhere, another female known to her hit her over the head with a glass bottle. Then she later says that that the establishment's bouncers responded immediately. The reason why I want to bring it up is because I don't think that the board should view this as an incident that wasn't handled properly. It should view this, if anything, as an incident that is simply a failure to make a phone call, and that's it. And I don't think, and so, you know, one of my concerns and one of my issues is every time we come in here, it's off to suspension. I mean, even after the settlement agreement that we entered into with the city, the last time I was in here, that was brought up. The fact that the license had been revoked previously was brought up and used, and it wasn't supposed to be. The basis of any future punishment was not supposed to include any reference to any revocation because it was a suspension. So that was a breach of that settlement agreement.
I find it interesting that you say that and we suspend you and give you a day abeyance or suspend you. And here we are in July of this year where the ABCC rendered a decision for you to be suspended for 22 days, 74 days, and you came to an agreement with them. So I don't think your argument holds water, to
I don't
be quite
understand.
frank.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. I don't understand.
I think you understand what I'm saying.
I honestly don't. You mean the offer in compromise?
I'm going to stay on subject. If anybody else doesn't have anything, Commissioner Krieger?
Yeah, I fully agree. This is about the telephone call or the email or whatever means of communication were chosen or not chosen. And we need to establish for everybody in the city that if there's an incident, you report it. Over-reporting is better than under-reporting. So, yeah, I'm with the chairman. Things happen, but reporting needs to happen, not merely reporting.
I can't tell you, Attorney Jacobs, how many emails I get from Mr. Nguyen and my fellow commissioners, from Mr. Nguyen, from other establishments, that first thing Monday morning, if an incident happened, anything happened, there's an email. There's an email that comes right through. At least there was an incident, the police were called, just wanted to let you know. Nothing.
Well, it's not like I said, when there were incidents in the last 9 months, I know that we've been reporting them. This one didn't get reported. Whether it's because people didn't think it was an incident, because it was so minor, I don't know. But
Well,
Mr. Nguyen and Attorney Gordon can verify that I have emailed both of them, and I know Lauren has emailed both of them, when there have been incidents.
so I guess why wasn't there any emails sent on that Monday morning?
I don't know why.
Okay.
Like, the only thing I can, the only thing I can suspect is because people did not think that it was that big of an incident. That's all.
Any further comments? Commissioner McCarthy?
Have you met with any of the people who are on duty that night?
That we're where?
On duty that night at the establishment?
I have, yes.
You have met with them?
I've spoken with them. I haven't met them face to face.
Anything further? Commissioner Donahue?
This would be a question for the city solicitor. And I was, in regard to the statements made by counsel, in regard to the agreement that was made. Could you advise me on that? Or would this be an appropriate forum for that?
Well, first of all, I think it's irrelevant to the inquiry tonight, which is simply a case of whether or not there was a reporting of an incident in compliance with our
Understood.
regulations.
Okay.
That's, to my thinking, the only issue that's presented in this hearing is whether or not there was a violation of 1.20 for not reporting an incident at the establishment. If you want to go beyond that, there was a settlement, and the settlement indicated that...
I don't want you to go beyond what you feel is appropriate for you to go beyond.
Fine, thank you.
Okay.
All right. Anything further from the commissioners?
Ready for a motion?
I'm ready for motion. Go right ahead.
Yeah. I move that we find that no report was made in violation of the rules, and that we do a one-day suspension held in abeyance.
Is there a second on the floor? Seconded by Commissioner Donahue. Roll call, please. Roll call.
Can I just be clear
Chairman
that the
Dakota?
one day held in abeyance means that
Does not have to be...
pending no other violations that occur during that year, then,
He hasn't made it clear if it's a year or 6 months at this point.
Oh.
Commissioner Krieger? Is this a one-day suspension, one day that is held in abeyance for how long?
For a year.
For 1 year. Counsel, go ahead.
so it's held in abeyance for 1 year on the condition that no other violations occur?
And if a
that-
violation does occur, that 1 day of abeyance is then moved to suspension.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Yep. I don't want to take the words out of your mouth. Commissioner Krieger, is that correct?
That's good for me.
All right. We had a second. Roll call.
Chairman Dakota,
Yes.
Commissioner Krieger,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarthy,
Yes.
Commissioner Howe,
Yes.
Commissioner Donahue,
Yes.
5 years.
Thank you, Counsel Jacobs.
Thank you.
Lieutenant Peasley, thank you for your attendance.
Commission will now proceed with number 2 on our agenda. We have applications for special one-day license to sell dispense malt beverages and wines only, or either one. Ellen Kazaza, Curidan 250, is back before you. Her business is at 250, or gallery is at 250 Jackson Street, and she had been approved for a license on October 10, 2019. She's requesting that it be amended. Originally, the date was November the 16th to 2019, and she's asking that that date be amended to Saturday, November 9th, 2019. It's called the Terrible Twos Art Exhibit, and the hours are 6:30 PM to 8:30 PM.
State your name for the record.
Ellen Kazaza.
All right. Commissioners, any issues with this? Move approval by Commissioner McCarthy, seconded by Commissioner Krieger. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All, any
Thank you so much.
against? Motion is approved. Good luck with your event.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Proceeding with the next item, we have an application for malt beverage and wine only, or either one, from Heather Austin of Coca Luna LLC for the event called Black Friday Market. It's Friday, November 29th, 2019. It's 12 p.m. to 6 p.m., and it'll be held at the Mill Number 5, 250 Jackson Street, the 4th and the 5th floors.
Good evening, state your name for the record.
Heather Austin.
Hi, Heather, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Heather, have you held this license before?
Yes, we have.
You have, and I know Commissioner Donahue had brought this up in the past, but where are you located, going to be located on the 4th and 5th floors?
4th and 5th floors.
Whereabouts?
Probably near the hi-hat and then all on the 5th floor.
All on the 5th floor, you said?
Yeah, we'll have the beer station probably down by what we call our satellite lounge,
Okay.
but it'll be the hallway, both hallways.
How many patrons are you expecting?
Uncertain at this point, but maybe about 250.
250?
Yep,
All right. Do you have any questions for this board?
I do not.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Ms. Austin? Move to approve by Commissioner Krieger, seconded by Commissioner Donahue. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Heather, good luck with your event.
Thank you.
All right.
Commissioner, now we'll proceed with number 3 on our agenda. We have a hearing on the application by Gary's Typico, Inc., doing business as Gary's Typico Restaurant. Gary De Los Santos, president, an all-alcoholic beverage restaurant licensee at 26 Andover Street, and he's requesting for change in corporate name to the entity to be known as Gary's Restaurant and Bar, Inc., Gary De Los Santos, president. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I just want to point out to the commission that what's required is based on what the Alcohol Beverages Control Commission mandates, and I believe Mr. De Los Santos has been compliant with that.
All right. Application looks fine, so state your name for the record, sir.
Hi, my name is Gary De Los Santos.
Gary, how are you?
Good, good.
How's business?
It's coming along.
You doing all right?
Yes, coming.
Very well. Questions or comments for Mr. De Los Santos? Move approval by Commissioner.
Oops, I got a question.
Question from Commissioner Krieger.
Yeah. Have you talked to a lawyer about the name change?
Well, my accountant was the person that took care of everything. I believe he did. Honestly, all I wanted to do was take the typical part of the name. He could have keep as Gary's Typico Inc. and DBA Gary's Restaurant. The reason why I wanted this is because we own another restaurant here in Lowell. It's called Rancho Typico. And the food is a little different. The ambient is a little different. And when people listen to Typico, they thought it was the same type of food. But every time they go into Gary's, it's different. And the food is different. So it calls the attention.
The reason I ask is someone from Chelmsford who runs a Gary's ice cream stand has complained to me. I just want to make sure that you're compliant with the rules of the Commonwealth. You're not overlapping illegally.
No, we have. There's a few other Gary's. There's also a Gary's bar someplace else, not here in Lowell or in Mass, but we submit the Gary's Restaurant, and it was approved. I guess everything is in order.
Good.
There was a motion on the floor by Commissioner McCarthy. It's seconded by Commissioner Howell. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Gary, good luck with your endeavor.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Best of luck.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Number 4 on our meeting agenda, we have a public hearing which had been continued from October 24, 2019, to consider the public need in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Section 12, Chapter 138, to decrease the hours during which sales of alcohol beverages may be made at the licensed premises of LD Holdings LLC, doing business as Revolution, located at 74 Merrimack Street. The commission may fix the hours for the sales of alcohol beverages for a licensee before 11 a.m. and after 11 p.m. during the calendar week, which is Sunday to Saturday.
State your name for the record, sir.
Travis Jacobs?
Attorney Jacobs. Just yourself here, right? Nobody else?
Yes, sir.
Okay, from Revolution, all right. All right, so I'm looking at a couple of, maybe you can help me out here, a couple of notices of accepted offer and compromise. Is this something that I can bring forward, Attorney Gordon, concerning the ABCC? And decisions that were rendered?
When was that rendered?
It was heard on June 5th of 2018. The decision was June 19th, where the suspension for a period of 22 days was
For which licensee?
for Revolution, and then instead of the 22 days, they paid $980 to get out of that. Then the violation date of 2/2 of 2018, which was heard on June 5th, the commission suspended the license for 74 days, of which 22 would be served and 52 days held in abeyance. So if I'm not mistaken, those are the 22 days. So they went from actually 74 days to a $984.28 compromise, which I thought was interesting because this is the first time I've seen this. I don't know if you'd like to make a comment on that.
Well, that is a public record, so.
So I'm just,
it's
yeah, this
not
is
a
the first I've seen of
confidential-
this.
What's the relevance of it, though, I guess is?
I'm in awe.
So every single, this is statutory,
Yeah.
every single licensee who appears before the ABCC.
I'm just astonished at the amount of days that the ABCC suspended, and then
It's also set, relatively standard, so.
Then 2 weeks later, we have a $980 check cut by LD Holdings, which got rid of the 22 days. I just thought it might be something to bring to the front.
Also set, it's a formula, it's,
That's a heck of a formula, boy. All right. Commissioner Howe, would you like to speak on this motion?
Just a reminder, it's a public hearing, so it has to be open up to the public as well, and.
Can we let the
those in
commissioner
favor
speak?
and-
Can we let the commissioner speak and then open up the public hearing?
Yeah, I'm just reminding you.
I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Howe?
I had requested the Secretary Wynn to provide us with documentation of prior violations for Revolution, and he provided us with said documentation, and one of the things was this incident back in 2018 where the ABCC suspended for 74 days, 22 to be served, and then the 22-day suspension was extinguished with the payment of a fine, $984.28. And it's my understanding that that violation was to do with the service of alcohol with minors. There's also a record in 2017 of failure to call the police. There was an incident on April 7th, 2017, where there was an assault inside the bar. The Revolution failed to call the police. Shortly thereafter, an unruly crowd exiting Revolution at approximately 1:30 a.m. There was an assault involving a Bowie knife. Our commission found a one-day suspension after a hearing on that. Then we have tonight's hearing of failure to call the police. My thought is failure to call the police is an egregious violation. In the 1990s, late 90s, there was a bar called Willie Tops in Lowell. There was a fight that broke out in the bar. There was a video. I saw the video. The patrons left the bar. The owners of that bar did not call the police, and a young man was an innocent bystander who was leaving the bar, was shot and killed, and his body was found the next morning by a man walking his dog. His body was under a shrub. And that law that the bar call the police is a very, very serious thing. And the fact that now in 2 years we've had 2 of those violations, and the last one in 2017 was at the hour of 1:30. I feel the licensee's hours should be rolled back to 1 a.m.
Thank you, Commissioner Howe. Commissioner Donahue? Commissioner McCarthy? Commissioner Krieger?
Nothing at this time.
What I'm looking at is exactly what Commissioner Howe is, and I'm looking at times. This latest one was 1:24 in the morning, and I hate always using this example of myself, but being a former bar owner, and which was next to another town that had a license that was only till 1 o'clock, and having my license at 2 o'clock in the morning, I know what can happen between 1 and 2. And it seems with the younger crowd at this establishment that everything seems to be happening between 1 and 2. This establishment has just not shown a good history, and the wrong clientele is visiting this place. Some from Lowell, some not from Lowell, and the ones from Lowell, not from Lowell, come in here and say, let's whoop it up and let's have some fun. And it seems like nothing good over there happens between 1 and 2 in the morning. So I'll let you speak, Attorney Jacobs, and then I'll open up the public hearing, okay?
Thank you. So, the first thing I'd like to point out is that the latest incident did not occur at 1:24 a.m. 13:24 is military time for 1:24 p.m. That was the date the time the report was done. 1:24 a.m. would be 1:24.
That was the day. You are correct in that assumption. I'm sorry.
So I don't believe that.
Just before we go on, just so, and I apologize for interrupting. Captain Hodgson, what time was it exactly?
Yes, the Attorney Jacobs is correct. That's the time the victim came into the main desk to report it. We didn't have a specific time. It occurred on that Saturday evening on July 27th.
We don't know.
We don't know the specific time.
Okay, all right. Thank you for pointing that out to me. Thank you, Attorney Jacobs.
So I don't think there's any evidence that incidents occur at a particular point in time of the night. But I also think I don't think the Bowie knife incident, there was actually a violation found. I know that there was an incident involving someone who had claimed to have been inside the bar, was found down around the corner. The cops picked him up. He said he worked at the bar. We brought in witnesses. They testified that was false, and the board found no violation. I thought that was the Bowie knife kid. So other than that incident, when I read this, because I don't see the Bowie knife incident on this form, I don't even know if that was Revolution, but I'm looking at this form that Mr. Wynn made for Commissioner Howe, and I don't really see any assaults, violent incidents, none of that. In fact, I don't see a single altercation of physicality or violence on this at all. And, you know, I know of other incidents that have occurred in the city even recently. There was something that would never happen at either of my clients' establishments because people are frisked before they go in. There was an incident at a bar where there was a gun in a fight that was lost in the melee and then, you know, wasn't recovered, at least not that night. They didn't lose any hours, as far as I know. I remember there was another bar down the street, Dudley's. They had multiple incidents involving underage girls who were taken to the hospital. You know, that there was, the ex-owner was selling drugs in the basement. I don't remember them losing any of their hours or even a hearing on it. And then what was really kind of disturbing for me...
Do your homework on that, Attorney Jacobs, before you state
Well,
what you think.
After the prior owner got pushed out, since then, I don't know of any incident where they lost hours. What concerned me the most about this being put on the agenda was that when this violation was originally issued for Bar 74, there was nothing on the agenda to reduce any hours. And if any hours were, if you were going to reduce hours on one of the establishments, it would have been Bar 74, ironically, because Revolution hasn't had any real physical altercations. They had the underage drinking, and the rest of these, in my opinion, are violations that were, were the result of a very keen eye being put on my client for an extended period of time. For example, the entertainment hours on March 22nd, 2018. That was the difference between live music and music coming from a radio. If it was radio music, there would have been no violation. But because it was supposedly live music, it was a violation. And we were talking minutes. We weren't talking half an hour. I think it was 3 minutes. Then the April 6th, failure to display a liquor license. Failure to post a cover charge. I believe that was part of the promoter incident, which the board did not issue a violation for because the promoter law was vaguely unconstitutional. And then again, the failure to display an ABCC warning sign for a DUI pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 34D. Then you had the use of the promoter, that's the incident. There was no violation for that. Failure to keep the premises clean and in sanitary condition, that was the dirty beer bottles. And like I said, the only real incident on here, or major incident that you could consider major or serious violation, was April 27th, 2017, 2 years ago, more than 2 years ago at this point, for the underage sale of alcoholic beverages to 4 underage individuals.
What I think we're missing here, Attorney Jacobs, is, and I think you're making the point, is there's a lot of minor incidents happening. And once again, I apologize for using myself as an example. I would make sure that all my T's are crossed and I's are dotted, just to make sure somebody didn't pick on me, per se, okay?
Sure, I agree.
And you know what? And it just keeps on happening and keeps on happening. Agree with you, they're not major, though this past one is major. And I think Commissioner Howe's point is well taken. You're not sending police there because nobody has their act together.
Well, but
and that to me is major. I will agree with you in some of these that they are minor, but they continuously are happening. So you get to the point where, you know what, person A isn't talking to person B, who's not talking to person C, who forgot to talk to person B, and it all falls apart. And just your presence here tonight, without the owner of the establishment here, Mr. Salvo, who's been here several times, she's not even here tonight. Why? This is her livelihood. I can remember distinctly when she says, I've put my life savings into this place.
She has.
And she's not even here to represent herself? I find that to be major.
Sometimes people can't be here every single night.
I'm not going to buy that one tonight. I'm sorry. Not when I know I'm going to be losing revenue, and I own a bar and an establishment, and you're taking money out of my pocket, I'm going to be here. You bet I am. So I'll take the manager being out of the country, but you know what? She better be in the city when something like this happens. Any other further comments from commissioners? Commissioner Donahue.
If I may, I think there are some, these issues are not major in many cases. I recall the license not on the wall, that was a story. And others, But I think the problem we're seeing, and it probably doesn't have anything to do with violations, and I'm having some difficulty with going along with reducing hours, only because I think of it that you're here all the time. Ms. DeSalvo's here all the time. But it's not fights in the bar. There are some of those. There have been, including what we heard tonight. But it's a manager, a new manager, manager left, manager's there, but he's not there. You know, going back over time. It's a managerial problem, I see.
That was bar 74.
I'm sorry?
That was bar 74. That was bar
Well,
74.
we have people, as I say, you're here with managerial problems. I don't want to, and you're right when you say that some may be bar 74, some are Revolution. But it seems as though there's a management problem, including Ms. DeSalvo's not here tonight. We need to see more interest, and the manager's not here. You know, I don't know whether it's, well, I guess I know it is. It's a management problem, but I don't know whether it's at this point, whether it's enough to reduce hours, and I'm going to give it some serious consideration in the next few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you,
I appreciate that.
Commissioner McCarthy.
As I said before, in the past, there's no management there. Absentee management is not going to work. And I think we're seeing that over and over and over again with the number of problems between both establishments. That's all I have to say.
Commissioner Krieg, any final thoughts?
Yeah, the thought that came to me was a comment by Curtis LeMay, not the local Curtis, but the guy from Ohio, in which he said, "I cannot distinguish between the incompetent and the unfortunate, and therefore I will not try." Well, I'm on the board, it's my job to try and distinguish, but it's hard. On the other hand, if we don't reduce the hours, we know where all the bad actors are.
I just wasn't expecting that. Well, you gave Attorney Jacobs a chuckle, so it's worked. Councilor Gordon, you would have anything to add to this conversation, sir? No, not at all. Captain Hodgson, do you have anything to add to this? I haven't even opened up the public hearing yet. I just want to hear from anybody. All right, at this time, we'll open up the public hearing. Anybody like to speak in favor of reduction of hours? Reduction of hours, reduction of hours. Hearing no one, that portion of the public hearing is closed. We'll open up the public hearing. I'd like to speak in opposition of changing the hours. In opposition, in opposition. Hearing no one, that portion of the public hearing is
Am I part of
closed.
the opposition?
I apologize, Attorney Jacobs. Go right ahead, sir.
I mean, look, I agree with Commissioner Donahue that these violations don't rise to the level of reducing hours. I think that's a move that cities typically use when bars are out of hand with fights, drugs, that kind of stuff. And you don't have that here. One of the reasons why you don't have that here is because if there's one thing that Ms. DeSalvo has done really well, it's she's brought in a ton of security. So there's more security that work there than probably work anywhere else downtown. So I think that's, to her credit, one of the reasons why, despite the wrong kind of clientele or, people from out of town mingling with people from Lowell, I think that's why you don't have more fights there, even though you might expect that there would be. There aren't, because there's so much security there. The people at the door are frisking people. And I think they've gotten really good at making sure nobody's getting in there underage. So I don't think that this is, especially what's on this page, justifies reducing the hours. I also think, this is a nightclub, right? I mean, nobody's going to go to a nightclub that closes at 1 o'clock. I mean, that's just, there's no two ways about that. Nobody's going to bother. So if it's 1 o'clock, it might as well be 10 o'clock. It just, that's the kiss of death, so.
You had mentioned that you've spoken to the staff concerning the last incident. After having conversations with everybody, did you figure out who was at fault for not making a phone call to the Lowell Police Department?
I think it was probably Lauren.
It was what?
Lauren. I think it was probably Lauren.
Lauren. So she was at the establishment that night and just forgot to call. All right, I appreciate that answer. There is a motion by Commissioner Howe to reduce hours to 1 o'clock. It doesn't need a second, it needs a roll call, if I'm correct on that. Is that correct? You need a second. All right.
Is there a second to the motion?
Is there a second? I'll second it. Commissioner Donahue, do you have any final thoughts before any further discussion on the motion?
What was the motion?
The motion is to reduce the hours to a 1 a.m. instead of the 2 o'clock that's in place at this time.
And I'd like to add, based on public need to maintain health, safety, and well-being of the general public.
I'm sorry, was there a time frame that was built into the motion?
I was just going to ask Commissioner Howe, would she like to have the applicant come back in a certain amount of time, or is this something that is a permanent statute?
I'd like to have the applicant come back
Okay,
3 months.
3 months? I seconded that motion, yep, go ahead.
I'm sorry, but I know there's been a couple of amendments. So, if I may, the motion is to reduce the hour from 2 a.m. to 1 a.m. by Commissioner Howe, second by Chairman Dakota. And may I ask?
And have the applicant come back in 3 months.
3 months.
For reconsideration.
So 3 months out of business, basically.
Okay.
Okay?
Roll call.
Roll call.
Yeah. Chairman Dakota?
Yes.
Commissioner Krieger?
No.
Commissioner McCarthy?
Yes.
Commissioner Howe?
Yes.
Commissioner Donahue?
No.
3 yeas, 2 nays.
Thank you.
Move adjournment.
Move for adjournment by Commissioner Krieger, seconded by Commissioner McCarthy. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, motion carries. Everyone have a good evening.
Can I approach you with my next blog post?
Where's your blog? Yep. They went crazy.